Welcome back. Still to come, Kel Richards. It's Wednesday, of course, a bit later in the show. But first, let's bring in my Wednesday night panel, Sky News contributor Jamie Rogers and the Chief of Staff for One Nation, James Ashby. Well, welcome to you both. Susan Lee kicked off her first day in the big chair with the lead question at 2 o'clock today, and it was all about housing. Let's have a listen.
The Prime Minister promised to deliver 1.2 million homes, but he has let down young Australians by delivering just 17. With leaked Treasury advice confirming this is a broken promise, will the Prime Minister abandon his failing policies?
Jamie, how do we get away with spending $10 billion on just 17 new homes?
It's disastrous, isn't it, Peter? This certainly has to be one of the greatest failures of public policy. And in recent time, how $10 billion and in 2 years we've got 17 homes to show for it that are newly built and 300 that have been purchased. And it does go down to the fact that Labor government has got so much red tape that it makes construction processes so long. But I think it is also worth noting that the Australian National Audit Office are going to be going through a review potentially of where all of these funds are going. But I think, Peter, it also just really highlights the importance of why we need a really strong opposition government to be able to hold the Labor government to account on things like this that can be brought to the forefront so that the Australian people know where their money's going and keep on top of all of these things.
James, I'm going to ask you about asylum seekers, but I want to ask you about the policy detail of housing just quickly, because I've done a bit of a deep dive in the last couple of weeks. I can't find the answers to this question. Are these Housing Commission homes of the old sort of style we're all familiar with, or are these homes that people on an income, working people, will get for free or buy or rent to buy? Like, what's the financial model here?
Well, no one quite knows, Peter. I think they're just clutching at straws. They'll take anything. The model as we see it, most of the funding will end up, or most of the houses that'll be built will end up in the care and responsibility of the states, which I might just add aren't doing a very good job of looking after social housing across the country. I know in our area there's so many homes that are dilapidated, that are vacant, that could be used much more effectively and better. We've also got people in homes that have been there for most of their life, like Albo's mum, that would probably suit a larger family if they were to say to that, sole occupant, listen, you've got a 4-bedroom house. I understand you raised kids here 20 years ago, but it's time for you to move on. And we should be recycling those assets to build better ones in better regions. And I just don't understand, though, how this government, and it wasn't just this government that made this promise either, it was the coalition prior to the election. They also promised to build 1.2 million homes. They both failed.
Right, stay with housing, because if we've got over 100,000 people who came here when they shouldn't have, came here illegally, claimed asylum, have been tested to be a refugee, found not to be refugees. Many of them, as we know, appealed all the way up to the High Court. They've been knocked back. 100,000 of them, they haven't gone home. We've got another sort of 20-odd thousand, 27,000 in the mix for a decision on applications in June. These people failed. They're in Australia, 100,000 of them. They're probably living in public housing as well. We want to wonder why we've got a housing crisis if we are housing and feeding and clothing and funding 100,000 people who should go home. They're not refugees. So what's going on?
Well, the articles released this week, I even noticed the ABC couldn't help but reveal the fact that homelessness in this country has gone up by 10% since this Albanese government came to power. And is it any wonder when you've got 100,000 people who, and let's look at the countries they've come from, Vietnam, China and India. They're the 3 biggest countries now claiming for this refugee humanitarian status. I'm afraid what we've done is we've made it so easy for these people to make the application. A lot of them came here as farm workers or the picking fruit kind of industry, and they've overstayed. And rather than go home, they've made an application. They've been found to be false. They've been found to have no humanitarian reason to stay here. Think about it. Plenty of Aussies go on holiday in these very countries that these people are claiming to be seeking asylum from. There's nothing wrong with them. They should go home. In the meantime, we've also got 75,000 people that have overstayed their visas that are here in the country, still working, still operating, still taking up homes. You know, it doesn't take much for you to add up the figures. This is why homelessness is so big. We should be clamping down like the United States does and says, if you are not here legitimately, go home. If you overstay, you just get banned from this country. We'll put you on a flight. We've got parachutes now, Peter, that auto-deploy at a certain height. If they don't want to go, chuck them on an aircraft, open the back, throw them out. Australians are sick to death of accommodating these overstays.
James Ashby.
Yes, I completely. Yes, I will.
All right, let's go to the news or the revelations. Victoria's former Commissioner for Children and Young People actually warned the state government 3 years ago that, quote, children would be abused if the reportable conduct scheme was continued to be starved of funds. This is the body that oversights and protects the childcare sector and keeps them all honest. I know that this one, James, is a Victorian issue, but you've got cases like this that we've seen in Victoria, the alleged abuse of young children. You've got them in Queensland, you've got them in New South Wales. They are right across the country. I mean, this is the Wild West. We've got Parliament sitting in Canberra. As I said, the laws that have been put into the Parliament today, a lot of the things they don't even need laws to do, they could do them now if they've got the will. I think this is unforgivable.
You're right, Peter. It's an absolute disgrace, and it's just so concerning as well when you think about in Victoria. That commissioner left her position close to 4 months ago, and it's still sitting vacant. So it just shows that it's not a priority, and we have to be taking urgent action. And I know you were speaking about it earlier in your program, I do like the steps that Jason Clare has said about taking funding away from childcare centres if they don't reach the safety standards. But that's stuff, as you mentioned, that we could have already done, and it is just the start of a much bigger issue. Now, this commissioner had been saying, as you said, for 3 years, saying if we don't get enough funding, children will be abused by people who should or could have been removed from the system. And the same level of funding has been received for this organisation since 2017 through to now, even though cases have risen by 81%. So it is a growing issue, Peter, and yes, we've addressed something today, but there are so many elements of this childcare sector that is failing families and letting children down right across the country.
Well, let's go to the whole welcome to country and acknowledgement of country stuff that's happened the last couple of days. There was an Aboriginal ceremony, a welcome to country. So that's given by Aboriginal people. That was in the Great Hall, James, yesterday as part of all the ceremonial opening events for Parliament. And then when the MPs and senators get into the chamber, the President, in the case of the Senate, the Speaker in the House, they gave an acknowledgement. So this is the white fella acknowledging black land ownership and all the other things that come with it now. They're getting longer and longer. And your mob stood up and turned their backs to the President. Why did that happen?
Well, because we've taken the direction of the Australian public that voted not only for one nation, but voted at the referendum to say no to division, and that was during the Voice. And we're not going to stop here, Peter. I think it's only fair that Australia's voices are heard. This is one performance that Australians are over, and I know you've discussed this plenty of times on your program, but we're going to take it further as well. We're going to stand against those renaming of townships and places like my hometown of Great Keppel Island that they want to rename Whopper. We've already had some of the islands off our coast of Queensland renamed, and there's also other issues that Australians want stopped as well. Like, for example, when bushfires break out, you shouldn't have to seek permission from traditional owners to go and fight the fire. These are just some of the issues that One Nation will be sticking up for the rest of the silent majority across Australia. We'll raise it in our Parliament and we will take a stand. We will speak out when people have been ignored by the major parties. So, yes, turning our back on Welcome to Country is just stage one of what we intend to do over the next 3 years to give power back to the Australian people. We're over the division. It's got to stop.
Tell you what, I'm with you on the acknowledgement of country. I don't like a bar of it. I don't want it when I land a plane. I don't want it when I click on a website. I don't want it when I go into a shop to buy clothes. It's got nothing at all to do with Indigenous rights. Well done. Well done, One Nation, on that one. Thank you both. See you next week. After the break, Words Matter with Kel Richards.